Hey, what's up everybody? This is Max from Maxon, and I am the resident colorist and trainer for Maxon. And I'm very delighted to be part of 3D Motion Show today, and I hope that everyone is doing great. And in today's presentations, we will see some color grading in actions, with Magic Bullet Suite of course. And we will take a look at how we can fit Magic Bullet Suite into different workflows, including those more sophisticated color managed workflow inside DaVinci Resolve. And before we move on, let me point you out to the fact that now Magic Bullet Suite is fully compatible with Apple M1 computers. So you can run Magic Bullet Suite smoothly on Apple M1 computers. Isn't that great? And with that great news, let us jump into the presentation. So we are all probably already familiar with Magic Bullet Suite. It is a complete set of plugins that gives you everything that you need for creating looks, doing color corrections, stylizing, and finishing your project. For the non-linear editors which are not dedicated to color grading, Magic Bullet Suite can be a very nice companion to color grade your project in the NLE. So inside the suite there are 7 powerful tools that you probably already knew and love. When it comes to creating a look for your project, you probably already heard of Magic Bullet Mojo. Mojo allows you to create an instant look using the unified complementary color concept. So first of all, it gives your footage a film-like contrast, and then it takes all the highlight area and push it to a warmer color while retaining the shadow and pushing it into another directions, a cooler one. So effectively, it is warming up your highlight while cooling down the shadow. Well, alrighty then, now let's take a look at how you normally use Mojo in your grade in a non-color managed project. So one thing that you always need to remember when using Mojo this way is that Mojo takes any clip that you use and put it out as a video level signal, equals to Rec 709 or sRGB. So if you are using log clip, in the end, after using Mojo, it will be converted to Rec 709. Knowing this, it is always good to use Mojo quite at the end of your grade. So now let's take a look how you can normally use Mojo in your grade in a non-color managed project. Here in Resolve, we have a non-color managed project. So let me show you my project settings. The project settings is set to DaVinci YRGB and the timeline color space is on Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. Right, let's move forward. And by default, in Resolve, you have to node category, the clip level, and then the timeline level. But you can unlock 2 more categories by grouping your clips together. So let me show you that. In this case, the clip number 1 until clip number 3 are shot in the same scene. So I will group them based on the shot. So I will add it into group A. And let's just confirm that. While this 2, I will add it into group B. And hit OK. Now as you can see, we have 4 dots instead of 2. The first one is the group pre-clip. If you make any adjustment in this category, it will be applied to the clips in the group before the clip level. And then the next one is the clip level, which stands for each individual clips. And then you have the group post clip, where all the adjustment made here will be applied to all the clips in the group, but after the clip level. And then finally you have the timeline level, where any adjustment made here will be applied to all the clips in the timeline. Alright, so let's go to the clip level, and here I would like to establish some sort of structure which I can later on share with all the other clips. I will add 4 serial nodes, just for example. And then I will save it as a still, which then can be applied to other clips. And as you can see, it appears on the still gallery. Now I will apply the same structure to other clips by selecting the rest of the clips. Go to my gallery and hit the middle mouse button, the scroll button. Now we have the same node structure in all of our clips. Now, since we're working in a non-color managed project, we want to normalize our image, and we can do so manually by using lift gamma gain, or we can do some sort of transformations using conversion LUT. And you can use LUT at the end of the chain, so you can work under the LUT. And since this is ARRI clips, so let's use ARRI log C to Rec 709 LUT. And now to do the same operations to all the remaining clips, I can ripple it and have it applied to all the remaining clips. So go to color and ripple node change to current group. Now the conversion LUT is applied to all the clips in the group. Same with the second group. Let's apply the same LUT. ARRI and ARRI log C to Rec 709, and again, let us ripple it again by going to color and ripple node changes to current group. And now I have successfully transformed all my log C clips into Rec 709. So now let's balance our clip before applying the look. And I would like to lift the shadow a little bit, and to do so I'll use lift wheel. And now turn down the uppermost highlight by using log wheel. And while I'm here, I can bring the blacks down a bit more, like so. Now I can check the white balance. I will select the qualifier, and on the viewport show picker RGB value, and now I can measure the neutral objects and see if they are spot on. And here we can see that the red channel is a bit higher. And to quickly tackle this, we can use the auto white balance, that is the eyedropper, and click the white object. Now we have 147, 147, and 145. I think that is okay. And we can ripple the changes to all other clips. Same command, color, and ripple node changes to current group. Now the changes we made are now applied to all the clips in this group. And same as before, in the second group, I want to brighten it a little bit, and I'll use lift wheel and pull down the highlight with the log wheel, and then also adjust the blacks. And we can measure the white balance in this clip, and it looked fine, so we can skip this one. Now we can ripple it to the other clip, color, and ripple node changes to current group. Now let's compare these two clips, and we can use split screen and choose selected clips. It seems to me that the clip on the right is a bit warmer, and I will go to that clip individually and handle it. And here, same as before, we can measure it using the qualifier again, and let's use the auto balance tool and click that. And then now we can compare the two, and it seems close enough. It's fine. Alright, now we will create a look for our project. And I think the best way to do that is to do it just once and affect all the clips. And I guess you know where we are going. We will use the timeline level, since we know that when we are doing something in the timeline, all the adjustment made in the timeline will be applied to all the clips that belongs to the timeline. Alrighty, here I will create a node and connect the input and output. And here I will use Magic Bullet Mojo to create my look. So let's rename it to Mojo. And to use Mojo, use the open effects and type in Mojo. Drag and drop it to the empty node. By default, the input is set to flat, but if you notice, before we are using a conversion LUT to convert our color space to Rec 709, right? So now we can just select video as our input. Mojo comes with presets, which you can change and adjust to your liking. Let's reset this and set back to video. And just set it to none. And play around with the sliders. We can see that Mojo sliders warming up the highlight and cooling down the shadow. Now let's just choose the preset that we like. We can select Class Act and just play around with the opacity of the effects using the strength slider. Now, if we check the other clips, we'll see that Mojo is successfully applied there as well. We can also do the split screen and preview all the clips. So, that is Mojo in a nutshell. The other tool that you may want to consider when creating look is Magic Bullet Film. This is the tool inside Magic Bullet Suite to emulate a filmic look. Magic Bullet Film is a plugin that gives your digital footage the look of real film by emulating the entire photochemical process, from original film negative to color timing and finally to the print stock. So now let me show you how you can use Magic Bullet Film in a non-color managed project inside DaVinci Resolve. So we're back in the same project we previously worked on. Now, same as Mojo, Magic Bullet Film also take any type of clip and turn it into video level signal or equal to Rec 709 or sRGB. It is best to use Magic Bullet Film exactly like how you would use Mojo in a non-color managed project. So use it right at the end of the chain where there won't be any other correction needed. In this case, I will disable Mojo and create another node. Add serial to host Magic Bullet Film. Use OpenFX to look for Magic Bullet Film. Let's type in film and drag and drop it to the empty node. Again, same as in Mojo, I will change the input to video level as we already have a conversion LUT in our prior node, which convert our clips from Array Log-C to Rec 709. In Magic Bullet Film, you have 11 different types of film negative and 4 types of film print. Gives you around total of 44 possible combinations. In between, you have the possibility to tweak the look of your choice. There are basic controls such as temperature and tint, exposure, contrast, and saturation. All that you can tweak to suit your vision. Let's use Fujifilm negative and change to Fujifilm 3521XD print stock. And let's play a bit with the color temperature and tint. So, right, something like that. And what I would like to point out is this slider called Vintage/Modern. This slider can effectively affect the contrast ratio of your look. Slide to the right for a more contrasty and modern look, or slide to the left for a more muted and less contrasty vintage look. Let's park it towards the modern side and reduce the amount of contrast using the contrast slider. Another important slider is the grain slider to add grain texture to your clip. Well, this is a very simple grain added to the clip. If you want more sophisticated grain with more control, in Magic Bullet Suite you can use Renoiser. I will set the grain in film to 0 and use Renoiser afterward. So here I will create a new node to use Renoiser. You can search Renoiser from OFX and drag and drop it to the new node after film. In Renoiser, you can work with presets and tweak it. It comes with several different presets. You can also adjust these controls to create your own custom grain. You can adjust the size and the amount in all 3 color channels and different tonal range of the image. Here I will go with classic 35 presets, and I will adjust the amount based on the image tonality. I want more grain in the highlight, less in the middle, and slightly more in the shadow. And here is before and after. Let me zoom in to make it more obvious. Again, without and with grain. So let's adjust the viewer back to fit the whole image. And this is without film and with film. So there you go, Magic Bullet Film to emulate film negative and film print. Up until now, we have seen some methods that we can use to create looks for our project in a non-color managed environment. But now the real question is how to do the same operations in a color managed environment. Before we move on, let's first understand what a color management is. In its very simplest term, you can understand color management as controlled conversions between color spaces of various capture and display devices. Nowadays, when we want to generate or capture an image, there are plenty of advanced capture devices out there that allows us to record or store wide dynamic range of data. And recording a high dynamic range images allows us to access data in the highlights or shadow area, which normally would be clipped with lower dynamic range capture. Now, all these capture devices, which are generally capable of capturing wide dynamic range of informations, operate in their own color spaces, which cover the same range as what human eyes can see, or sometimes even bigger than what human eyes can see. Different brand has their own different proprietary color space. Meanwhile, on the other side, to view an image, we need the display devices. Unlike the capturing devices, in the display devices department, we are just entering the advent of high dynamic range imaging. And on top of that, the display devices have their own color spaces, which are generally smaller than the capture devices. These color spaces are commonly known as Rec. 709 for broadcast image, or sRGB for computer displays, and DCI-P3 for cinema projectors. Color management framework allows us to have an accurate conversions between all these color spaces. It means that an image shot in a wide dynamic range of array log C, for example, can now be converted easily and correctly viewed in Rec. 709 display using the color management framework. As you can see, without color management framework, you normally would do a manual work to bring the flat-looking log images to look normal before you can craft your grade. Color management do all the heavy lifting and all the boring works, while you got to focus on the fun stuff. And in working with color management framework, you will also need to understand these following two terms, the display referred and scene referred. As colorist, you will want to work in a scene referred environment while viewing the finished projects in a display referred environment. Display referred imaging is the encoded images which are ready to be viewed on a certain display monitors. Think of the snapshot image you took with your cell phone. The image is nice and crisp and have decent amount of contrast and saturations right after you capture it. Meanwhile, the scene referred imaging is the image that represent the real light values of the captured scene as they are being recorded. These are the images that look flat and desaturated as you previewed them on a display screen. Why am I saying that as a colorist, you will want to work in a scene referred? If we go back to the previous example of the image that was captured with cell phone, upon capturing, under the hood, your phone applies some sort of process that will make the image crisp and colorful. Your phone does this automatically, and you will not be able to interfere with the process. It means that you don't have control of how your image will end up looking like. Since all the color management framework are scene referred, you will have the convenience of having the control over your images while being able to preview the image correctly throughout the process. Using color management framework is trusting the math to convert between color spaces. So now let's go back to our initial questions. How can I use Magic Bullet Suite and all the tools inside it in a color managed framework? The answer is to use Magic Bullet Looks. Magic Bullet Looks is the flagship tools of the suite, and it allows you to easily design the look of your piece. It is the easiest way to make your footage looks great. Magic Bullet Looks ships with over 300 fully customizable presets designed to match your favorite movies and TV shows. You can also build up your own look from scratch using all the different tools inside it. Inside Magic Bullet Looks, everything is easy and everything is customizable. And with the input and output color handling, Magic Bullet Looks can be fit into any color workflow, so it can be used in any projects. With Magic Bullet Looks, you will experience how intuitive color grading can be. So now let's switch over to Resolve and tweak our project. So now we're back in our project. First, let me delete all the looks that we previously created. Let's select these nodes and hit delete. And for the first node, let's reset it and just delete the node label. Okay. Now we will go to the clip level node and delete our LUT, which transformed the Arilog C to Rec 709. We want to use color management to handle this. Let's ripple the change, so color and ripple node changes to current group. The same goes for the other group. Let's reset the LUT and ripple the changes again. Okay. Now we can set up our color management framework. In this example, we will go with one popular color management framework that is widely available and ready to use: ACES. In using ACES, there are some things that you will need to consider. ACES framework will take your project into its AP0 color space. This is the huge color space in ACES that is normally used for archiving projects. And from here, ACES then carry the projects into AP1 color space, a smaller color space better suited for working. This process happens automatically in the background though. Once you opt in for ACES framework, this all set. Let's go to our project settings to set ACES. Go to Color Management tab, and in Color Science, we can choose either ACES CC or ACES CCT, which both have logarithmic encoding. So let's go for ACES CC. We can opt for the newest ACES versions, and since all the clips in our project were shot with ARRI, we can use Alexa as our input transform and Rec 709 as our output. So let's hit save. So now we have all our clips normalized as if we'd done transformations to Rec 709. Let's update all thumbnails. So our clips are previewed in Rec 709, but in our working space, we are still in ACES CC. Alright, since we already balanced our clips previously, I want to create a look. Same as before, I can do it in the timeline level. Now I can use Magic Bullet Looks to do this. Use OFX to search for looks and simply drag and drop it to the empty node. Click Edit Look to launch the interface. Now, in Magic Bullet Looks, there are several tabs that you may need to know. Looks tab contain all the presets which you can tweak. It comes with over 300 fully customizable presets. Once you click one preset, it will be shown in the tool chain. You can still change the order of the tools here or simply delete them if you want to do it from scratch, for example. Another important tab is the Tool tab. In Looks, there are 4 different types of tool. The selective tools are the exposure tools representing the effects that you may create on the set while shooting. The camera tools are the effects that you may get from tweaking your camera. The color correction tools are the tools that you use in the post-production, so the tools that live inside your computer. And finally, the film emulation tools to emulate the film development process. Okay, now let me point you out to these two tools, the color handling. Using the input tools, you can transform the gamma of your clip to be compatible with the color management framework that you are working with. There are plenty of input transform that you can use, but here we will use ACCC as our input gamma. And now we can output the signal to any output transform that you wish. In this case, I want to output it back to ACCC, or I can use the option same as input. If you wish, you can also preview the piece in sRGB space using the sRGB button. This button does nothing to your clip except just previewing it in sRGB space. Now, same as before, I will use Mojo. Outside looks, Mojo will output my signal to Rec 709, but since we are using Mojo inside Magic Bullet Looks, it allows me to output it back to ACCC. Once you are done, you can confirm the look and you'll be transported back to Resolve. Since looks is in the timeline level, it is applied to all the clips. Now we can use the strength slider to adjust just how much of the effect that you want to use. Here is before and after. Now let's select all clips and do the split screen. Set it to selected clips. Here's without looks and here with looks. Inside looks, we are just using Mojo. That's not the limit though. You can play around with all the tools inside looks to create your look. One tool that I like a lot is diffusions to emulate the diffused light that goes through your lens. Again, we can play around with the presets or tweak it to your liking. So that is how you use Magic Bullet tools inside ACES framework. But wait a second, is that all to it? Nope. What if I tell you that there's more customized way which guarantees more fun in the workflow? So let's check it out. We can actually set the custom ACES workflow using the node editor without having to set it at the project level. To do so, we need to set our project to non-color manage, and we will custom manage the color management. So now let's first reset our look. Close the Open Effects panel. Now let's go back to our project settings. We were previously setting up ACES on the project level, so now we can reset it and reset the color science to DaVinci YRGB and timeline color space Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 and hit save. Let's update our thumbnail. And as we would expect, they are back into this flat looking images. That's correct. So now we will create custom ACES framework using nodes. In Resolve, there is ACES transform tool that live inside OpenEffect, which called ACES transform. Drag and drop it to the empty node. Now let's rename it to in. This ACES transform allow us to bypass the timeline color space and set our own. We can inform Resolve that we are using clips from ARRI and we want to transform it to ACES CC. And after that, we want to transform this to our display color space. We are in the timeline level, and here we can use the same OpenEffects ACES transform. Let's call this out. Now we want to transform our clips, which are in ACCC, into our display color space. So it is quite the opposite to what we have in the in node. So now we are successfully brought our clip into ACCC. and transform it to the Rec 709 display space. Let's go to the second group and create the same input node, since we haven't done this in this group. And same as before, it should go from RE to ACES-CC. Now let's update our thumbnails to see that. Now that we have set our working space in ACES-CC and we have done it in the node, we have more possibilities. Let's first rename this node to in. Since the transformation is handled using node, we can actually work before and after the ACES transformations. The node that exists after the input transform is an ACES-CC, same as here. And in the timeline, the node that exists before output transform are also in ACES-CC. So you always have the possibility to work inside ACES or outside ACES in the display space after the output transformations. Or you can access the camera color space before ACES. That is before the input transform. If you want any adjustment that need to be made in camera color space, you can access it. So let me show you that. Let's create a node before the input transform. Here I want to use Magic Bullet Looks to play around with light. Drag and drop looks to the empty node and hit edit. So now in the color handling, I can set it to the camera color space. In my input, I can choose Alexa Log C, and the output same as input. Now, I have the choice to use any camera or selective tools to play in the Log C space. Let's drop in diffusion and play around with the presets. I like the look of Summer Sun preset, so I'll use it. I can also add in some haze or flare. So this is without flare and width. Let's reduce the spillage a bit. Well, I like the round number, so let's set it to 15 perhaps. And increase the softness to something like 25. Now this is without and with the effect. Let's confirm it. Okay, we got our effect set to the clip. We can use the strength slider to play around with the amount of the effect. Maybe reduce it a bit, around 35 perhaps. Here's without and with the effect. We can also do the same in the other group. Or what I have forgot to show you is that actually in looks you can create preset and use it later. So let's go back into looks. Now we can save our looks as a preset and let's name it to diffused flare. So here I will just type diffused _ flare and hit save and hit confirm. Now on the other group, let's add serial node. So right click and add serial. Oh, I meant to create a node before that, so right click, add node, add serial before. And drag and drop looks into it. We will set the input into Alexa Log C and output it as the same signal as the input. Now we can go to our custom preset and use our preset that we have created previously. And now let's confirm it. Same as before, let's reduce the opacity to somewhere around 35. Now let's do the split screen. I quite like it. Now into creating our look. Let's go into our timeline and create a node before our transform. So let's go to the timeline and right click this node, add node, and select add serial before. And we will use Magic Bullet looks to do that. Let's hit edit. So since we are in the node before our output transform, we are in ACES CC. So let's set our input to ACES CC and output it as the same as input. Same as before, let's go for Mojo. We'll use the same presets and adjust it. We can reduce the saturation using bleach slider. If I want to emulate filmic look, this is also how we can do it. We can use either film negative or film print inside looks. We can select any of the film stocks that come with it. But now, let's just get our Mojo working. Let's confirm it. Let's rename this node to look. Let's adjust the intensity of the look using the strength slider. Let's set it to around 40. Here's before and after. We're pretty much done. Let's preview them using the split screen. Here is without and here is with the look. So now there's one more possibility that we can exploit. If you want to work in the display color space, we can create a node after our ACES output transform. And here we can use Magic Bullet tools like film that output your signal as Rec 709. So now let's create one more node after the output transform. And here we will use this node to host Magic Bullet film. And here, same as before, we will set our input level to video. And same as before, let's use Fujifilm and Fuji as print stock. Now we can adjust the parameter to further shape our look. Let's use Vintage Modern slider and also reduce the contrast a bit. And now we can adjust the strength. Here's with and without. Now we can also reduce the grain to 0 and use renoiser after that, same as before. Here's a new node, add serial, and drag and drop renoiser from open effects to the empty node. Here we can use the same presets as before, classic 35, and adjust the amount in the highlight, more in the highlight, less in the mid-tone, slightly more in the shadow. Let me zoom in. Here's without and here's with renoiser. Let's set the viewport back to fit. Now, after crafting your look, you can adjust the amount of the effect. Let's do the split screen. Here's before film and after. Here's without look and with look. So that's it, guys. I hope that you'll be inspired to use Magic Bullet Suite in a more unique and creative way. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for being here. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop us an email at training@maxon.net. And don't forget, we also regularly host free webinars that explore multiple different workflows that suit Maxon tools. So don't forget to check them out. Go visit maxon.net/events. And until next time, it's been my pleasure. Take care.